Is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, everyone. We are happy to have you with us for today's webinar, recapping our experience at the UK MoodleMoot last month. Happy to be here and have you all with us today. We see, looks like some people are still jumping in, so we'll get started in just a moment. Just wanted to take the time to point out the questions section of your GoToWebinar control panel. Please do not hesitate to ask any questions that come to mind during the presentation. We'll leave some time to answer some questions at the end. Hopefully, we do have a lot to share with you today, but please also, fire those at us in the chat, and some of us will be watching on the side and can send some answers, and then we'll address those we have time for at the end. Okay. So in the interest of everybody's time today, we will get started. My name is Claire Mesha. I'm the Director of Support Services, joined today by our VP of Sales, Randy Jones, who you'll hear from, as well as Todd Matthews, our Director of Implementation Services, Daniel Heffley, one of our client care analysts on the support team, and potentially others. I think Ben from the UK may be joining us as well. So we'll just jump right in. First off, just give you kind of a high-level overview of what we're planning to cover today. Thank you, Todd. So we're gonna just, for those of you who may not be eThink clients or may not know too much about us, Randy's gonna do just a quick overview, who we are, what we're about. We're gonna kind of give a recap of the entire 3 days of the Moot. Day one, Monday, was consisted of pre-conference workshops, so we're gonna share a little bit about what we learned from those. We're going to talk about the sessions that were run by Moodle HQ, what some of those, the highlights of those presentations were. The eThink team also did three different presentations. So we're just going to share what those were about and how they were received, and then just kind of round everything out with just some reflections, some takeaway points on what we learned and took away from the entire experience. Okay, Randy, why don't you tell the audience a little bit about us?
Great, I appreciate it, Claire, and I did look at the registration list, and I did see quite a few eThink clients, so we appreciate you joining us. For those of you who are not eThink clients, I just did want to provide some context for this conversation and a little bit more about what our team does, where our focus is in the market. So eThink is the largest Moodle partner in the world. In the UK specifically, we are a certified Moodle partner. We provide what we call a fully managed experience. What that means is we essentially become the extension of our client's team responsible for their Moodle LMS. We provide the hosting for every one of our clients. We have a really unique implementation that's led by Todd and his team that also consists of a discovery piece where we attempt to learn what the ideal learning environment is for each one of our clients. That process actually starts during the sales process and then continues into implementation. And then Todd's team builds a unique LMS for every one of our clients. We build it backwards. What are you looking to accomplish? What are you looking for 6, 12, 18 months down the road? And then Todd's team builds an environment that meets those specific needs. New to eThink, we do provide content, e-learning content. We do so through a network of partners that we've developed around the world. We are integration experts, especially on the higher ed side, but on the corporate side, we do integrate with CRMs and ERPs and HRISs and the rest of the alphabet soup. On the higher ed side, our student information system integration is the best on the market. It's real time. It's really candidly pretty amazing. And any third-party plugins or modules that you may want to use, we'll go ahead and install those and configure them for you as well. And we do an awful lot of consulting. If you've been to any of these conferences, whether it be the Moot or others that are even larger, some much larger, there's a ton of really great tools on the market right now, whether you're in higher ed or in the corporate learning side or K-12, that can really help your organization meet learning goals. But there's so many of them that it can certainly be overwhelming. I'm sure we've all walked around conferences and felt, geez, how do I make a decision on what might be best here for my learning ecosystem? So our team is happy to jump in and say, other clients have found this tool to be really useful. They've been successful using it. Yep, we recommend you use that as well. Or here's 2 or 3 options for what you're looking to accomplish there. So that's a little bit on eThink, and I'll pop back in on the end after our expert services team tells you a little bit more about the Moot, just for next steps. And if anybody wants to learn more about our services, I'd be happy to have that conversation with them moving forward.
Great, thanks, Randy. So the first day of the Moot on that Monday consisted of pre-conference workshops, as is typical of a Moot. So this year there were 3 running simultaneously. Actually left off part of the first one. So the morning was, they were kind of closely related though. The morning workshop was focused on adaptive learning, and the afternoon they kind of transitioned to gamification, which does align itself well with adaptive learning techniques. I, as well as other Moodle partners in the UK, was involved in the full day workshop on Monday related to the MEC, where I'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. And as usual, we also had the Dev Jam, the developer kind of meeting of the minds to talk about the roadmap and current project, preparing for 3.7, and so on. So the pre-conference day is always pretty cool. A lot of really interesting conversations and brainstorming going on. So first we'll have Todd and Daniel and Ben joined the two halves of the other adaptive learning and gamification workshop. So Todd, why don't you give us a recap of what that was about?
Yeah, thanks, Claire. I will say I always get an extreme amount of knowledge out of these Moodle Moots. Every one I've attended, I've learned something new, and for working with Moodle for, over a decade now, which is kind of scary to say, but I still come out with new information, and this Moot was no exception. The adaptive learning and gamification workshops were led by Mary Cooch and Helen Foster from the Moodle HQ community development team, and they are just always wonderful to have lead these sessions. Their knowledge and their experience in Moodle from really kind of the beginning is greatly seen in these sessions. The adaptive learning side really showed us a few new things that we were able to do to help lead, not only through the simpler side of Moodle, through those, restricted access and conditional activities, but also then leading into how you can kind of separate out these users into different groups, into different learning paths, and really help provide them with a little bit of a specialized and focused learning path. From things like the group choice plugin to the actual checklist to help build out where users are going to be placing themselves in this learning path. It was really incredible to see this knowledge and to see the groups break out into individual sessions here and to help actually build out their own adaptive learning plans. So it was a really incredible experience just to kind of get to be a part of that. We got to meet some very interesting people at this conference as well. And again, no exception during this session, we got to kind of rove around a little bit and see what some of the groups were doing. On the gamification side, again, I always learn new things, and this was absolutely great to be a part of. From things that we'll take a little bit of a look here at the actual plugin list itself, from things like the poster, the Block XP, the quiz itself, which has a much more fun name than is shown here with Quiz Game, and is called Quiz Venture, into the stash, really helping build out those intrinsic and extrinsic learning plans, and being able to help let those users see some instant gratification of sorts, to see that their work is actually building towards something, and is helping them actually plan out what they need to learn and get there in a fun and interactive way. Some of the things we saw, like I said, the Quiz Venture, for those of you 8-bit retro fans like myself, this was absolutely a great plugin to kind of take a look at. It actually pulls from your quiz questions and lets you control a little avatar of sorts and choose the correct answers there, while having the actual answer shoot back at you if you're wrong. And so it was a really kind of cool interactive way to be able to help incorporate in some adaptive learning as well as some gamification, both all in one fell swoop there. In addition, things like the stash block and the XP block to actually level up and to build through the learning plan itself. Again, to see that instant gratification and to say, all right, hey, I completed a quiz, it jumped me up to level 2 automatically. So we really got to see some cool ways to incorporate that all the way through. And I felt that these two sessions really flowed together very naturally in that adaptive learning, and bringing in that, as I said, kind of extrinsic and intrinsic learning paths. To be able to help give somebody not only their option to learn what they need to learn, but to learn it in a way that they want to learn as well. So giving some of that feedback right away in ways that you get to see here through the block level up, and also grabbing some interesting things like the coin, the golden crown, the golden sword, to help make your way through that, so that way you were fully prepped for the final quiz, or in this sense, the final boss. So really had some great things that we were able to take out of there. And I think Ben, Daniel, and myself all came away with some new ideas that we were have already been able to help incorporate into a few client sites. Of all of these, I would say if you've had a chance to, or haven't had a chance to play with it, the Quiz Venture is absolutely a blast, and is just a really fun way to help show that learning off. So with that, I can pass things, I think, on back to Claire to talk a little bit further about that Moodle Educator certificate course.
Yeah, so the MEC has been a buzz in the Moodle community for some time now. A few of us on the eThink team have become MEC certified facilitators by HQ. And because of that, we were asked to be part of the presenter facilitator presence in the MEC workshop itself. So to just give you a little bit of high level of what that workshop was about, we really spent the morning talking about, what the MEC really is, who it's for, how it's designed, and what standards it's been developed upon. And then we spent the afternoon really sort of sinking our teeth into one of the very first modules, where was the universal design module, where we got to get a sense for how the 22 modules of the MEC will work. And we just tackled the UDL one in this workshop session, and got to get familiar with the practice. So the MEC, for those who haven't heard about it before, it really seeks to go beyond functional. This is intended for those who are already Moodle users and have been practitioners, either teaching or learning in Moodle in the past, and they want to dive deeper and learn more about how can you use these Moodle tools in order to meet your instructional goals. So really kind of focusing more on the pedagogy of Moodle and how the tools can be used to leverage different instructional standards. So if you could go to the next slide for me, Todd. Yeah, so these are all screen grabs from the presentation during the workshop. This one talks about the design of the curriculum for the MEC. So the HQ education team has done a tremendous amount of work mapping out the curriculum and making it so that it is compliant with both the DigComp EDU digital competency framework in the European Union, as well as the UNESCO digital education standards. So these two on the right and left here are the standards and framework upon which the MEC was designed around in order to meet those standards. And that's why with each module, participants are asked to submit two design challenges, work samples, to meet the standards and level of achievement mandated by both of these certifying bodies. And then the relational model for teaching and learning here, that is a model developed by the curriculum designer for the MEC, and the design guide, connect, and reflect, those four pieces of the pie there, those represent the four different teaching approaches under which the 22 modules of the MEC are organized. So on the next slide, you'll see a list. On the next slide, you'll see a little bit more information about the different certification levels. So as of now, the certification that is available to the wider community is called the foundation level certificate. And that is comprised of 6 different modules. And over the coming months, the MEC is going to be expanded to a total of 22 modules. And those remaining 16 will fall under those different, those 4 different teaching approaches. So the guide, design, connect, and reflect. All 22 modules are structured pretty much the same. And upon completing your 2 design challenges, a reflection and feedback activity, you would earn your badge for each module. And once you complete all of the individual modules within a certification track, you can earn either the foundational, the teaching specialization certificate, or if you complete all 22, the comprehensive certificate. So there's a lot to unpack here, and this is why they designed it as a full day workshop, I imagine. And we had a lot of great conversations about it. We dug into the UDL. I was really impressed by all of the ideas and design challenges that I saw and conversations that were had. So we're excited to be, one of the partners to offer this. We have our very first offering of the foundation level, the core 6 module certification, starting next month on June 3rd. So if you are at all interested in joining us for that, please reach out. We'd be happy to give you more information. But this was a really enriching experience, and we're excited to see how this program continues to evolve over the coming months once we are delivering these modules to the wider Moodle community.
Yeah, thanks, Claire. I think we'll kind of be talking about a few of these items. You'll hear me and Claire bounce back and forth for a few of the presentation highlights, but we wanted just to kind of touch base after that first day of the actual workshops of where things kind of went from there, and some of the actual HQ presentations that we were able to get some further information from. We'll talk a little bit about that keynote delivered by Martin Duguiamas, as well as a little bit further about the MEC courses and how that ties into the eThink Academy. We'll talk about Doug Belshaw's setup there with the Moodle.net and the new interactive kind of landing page for Moodle, allowing some extra community involvement. We'll also talk about the exciting new features being released in Moodle Workplace, sorry, I keep throwing 4 in there. And then wrap things up a little bit with the Dr. Moodle panel, where we have some of the leading experts in the Moodle industry being able to interact with the end users directly and have a little bit further chat. So we'll touch base on a few of these topics, and we can start things out with the keynote speech from Moodle founder Martin Dougiamas. In these presentations, it's always incredible just to kind of see the mind behind Moodle itself. We get a lot of information being an official partner here through the channels there, and get to see what some of the upcoming events and items might be included in Moodle. But to hear it directly from Martin is always another experience. We were able to hear a little bit about that upcoming roadmap and see some of the really continuous improvements that will be implemented in the product in the near future. Martin always likes to bring in the kind of core behind Moodle there of empowering educators and improving the world. And this was really a continuation of that, as we got to see some of the new features like were mentioned prior that we'll kind of touch base on here. Moodle Workplace, I think, was widely accepted as one of the greater new things coming for Moodle here, and people were really excited as Martin got to chat about that a little bit further. And just the ability to really inspire educators in a new way of using Moodle. We got to have a few jokes in there even about the long-standing tracker that is in the Moodle tracker setup there. I'm not sure how many of our attendees regularly visit that tracker and look at some of the bugs, but one of the things that was highlighted is the tracker item of being able to actually end global warming. So that is now fully on Martin's shoulders. Make sure the next time you see him to let him know that that tracker needs more votes, and that we want to see, this global education learning platform be able to actually help improve the world as a whole. From there, we got to get a lot of information, like I said, about the roadmap, and we'll talk about a few of those items here as we progress through. But having that ability to see the vision from the founder here is always something that is just a great experience to be a part of, and we always appreciate his notes and everything that he is able to share. And from there, I think we can kick things back to Claire a little bit over the Dr. Moodle session, and I think we might have a slide or two out of order here, but we can kick things into the Dr. Moodle session, as I said, with some of those leading experts.
Yeah. So the MEC was also featured as an HQ presentation. I've already, I think given you an overview of that, but the regular conference on Tuesday and Wednesday did feature another session with Bob McDonald from HQ, kind of giving the overview, recapping a lot of what we discussed in the workshop for the wider group of Mood attendees, just to tell them, what it's about and what the plans for the MEC are. The Dr. Moodle session is something I believe in the last year has started incorporating into the Moods. I know we did this at the US Moot in Denver this past fall in October. So I was pulled up on stage again this year to be a part of this panel discussion. It's a fun way. HQ, you see Doug at the front there talking about just sort of leading the session through the MoodleMoot app. Participants could submit questions to Dr. Moodle to be brought up during the session. So participants, asked their kind of toughest questions, and we also took questions from the audience. And the panel that you see up there is of different Moodle partners and premium integration partners. We all took turns sort of answering questions that were submitted in advance or that came up from the audience. The audience also chimes in, and we wind up having some discussion on the fly there as well. So even though the room, even though it was a competition and the room got divided into two teams, it kind of wound up being a tie, and both teams were helping each other out in answering some of those tough questions. So that was that's a really great session. I think is becoming a great new staple of the Moots. I don't think we have a separate slide for it, but the other thing I wanted to talk about, Todd, if you wanted to just go back a couple to thank you. The Moodle Net session Todd mentioned, that one is getting a lot of buzz. We're all really excited to see where it is going to go. It is still very much in its early stages of development, but the goal there is to develop more of a social platform and a community for Moodlers. So that is really where it's intended to go, be a place where institutions can share, their best courses, forums where we can talk about larger issues, tying into, OER and the e-learning ecosystem and other, solutions and tools that can plug in. So Moodle Net is really intended to be that new social media type platform for educators that's focused on your own professional development and access to open content that other Moodlers are sharing. If you're interested in following the project, I know they are happy to have additional beta testers. So please do, check that out and sign up if you'd like to follow that evolution of the project. And the very last but not least, big banner presentation given by the HQ team was about Moodle Workplace. And I believe our colleague Ben from our solutions team is with us, and I know he was involved in that demo, in that session. So Ben, would you like to give us a quick recap of that workplace session?
I certainly can. Thanks, Claire. So I was able to attend the Moodle Workplace session during the Moots, where we had one of the first looks at Moodle Workplace. So just to give you a bit of a background on that one, it is a great platform for corporate learning. It's a platform that takes Moodle core as its foundation and then specifically adds in features that will work nicely with corporate organizations. So this includes things like the ability to group courses together to create a program so that you don't have to allocate learning directly at course level. You can group them, as well as having certifications where you can actually give renewal dates for them, so such as your compliance training, all built directly into Moodle itself. It also allows things such as multi-tenancy, so you are able to brand different parts of the platform in different ways depending on how you set up your structure, as well as actually allocating learning based on your positions and your organization within your structure within your organization. So you have a hierarchical structure where you can actually dynamically give users different roles and different positions within the system. It also has things such as a better report builder. So it has a built-in report builder. It has dynamic rules which allow you to actually allocate learning and restrict access to certain parts. But it is going to be a great platform, and it's going to allow organizations to really take their learning up to the next level.
Great, thanks so much, Ben. All right, so now we'd like to give you a recap of the different sessions that the eThink team gave at the Moot over the course of the Tuesday and Wednesday two-day main part of the conference. The first one, Todd and I presented on together about the building blocks of a successful Moodle site. So Todd, you want to take it away?
Yeah, thanks, Claire. So we'll talk a little bit further about some of the takeaways here, but I think I'll touch base on a few of the items as I talk about our presentation. We got to have a great opportunity to present and speak to a wonderfully knowledgeable UK Moot group there. So our presentation was keyed a little more towards newer Moodle users, and I think we underestimated a little bit how bright and how smart some of those UK users are that have been using the Moodle platform for many years now. So our goals were really to focus on those newer users and to be able to let them kind of take away a cookbook of sorts, to be able to touch base on all those different activities and topics that are needed for a successful Moodle site. As you see here, we tried to incorporate everything we could, from the student enrollment, authentication, the initial training, plugins that are needed, and some of those more advanced features such as the API side, score and setup, and also the professional development and eThink Academy. What we really tried to do, like I said, though, is give users a PowerPoint that they could walk out of that presentation, go set up their own Moodle site, or better yet, be coming to eThink with an entire list of questions as they were starting their implementation, to be able to build out the best Moodle site for them. We touched on the site creation and setup process first and kind of worked through the best and most widely used options for authentication and user creation, and how we could kind of marry some of those ideas together, such as, using more advanced setups like SSO, whether it be SAML, CAS, OAuth, and talked about the differences between the just-in-time creation versus just-in-case creation, of being able to make sure that those users are pre-populated in the system, while still being able to utilize that single sign-on option to be able to really make sure that their user profiles are kept up to date and that they're signed into those multiple services across the campus or organization. From there, we kind of jumped into the next step, which is the enrollment and course creation process, where we looked at, hey, we've got users in the site now, we need to get them into somewhere and actually have some content ready for them. So we worked through some of the different options, whether it be, a front-end thing like a course merchant solution, or something that allowed for an e-commerce to allow users to purchase out their courses on an a la carte basis, to kind of some of the more advanced options, such as the eThink SIS integration, where we can actually pull across those users in a real-time manner. The way I always describe it is that a user can walk into the registrar, get set up with their new course, walk outside on their phone, and be able to actually see those courses within that time frame. So we kind of talked about an all-encompassing approach there on how we could help build that out from our end, as well as how users could help set that up on their side if it is more of that self-paced learning and self-driven learning. From there, we dived into the theme design, which for those of you that know me, I am a giant CSS nerd. I had to really restrain myself from talking too much about the theme design on our side, but was able to dig into not only the core boost setup, which allows for some great functionality and a very streamlined learner approach to be able to get users into the direct areas they need to be, but also talked about a few of our third-party plugins that we utilize, such as Fordson or Lambda, to be able to help really spruce up the site a little bit further if you're needing to get some additional branding or some additional theme design in place. So we were able to kind of walk through some of those core elements that were needed for those pieces and show off a few sites that utilize these design features very well. And last but not least, on the site setup side, we talked about the plugin selection itself. Needing things like instant communication tools such as QuickMail to be able to talk with the students in a direct manner and have a receipt of that message actually stored within the site for you. Being able to look at some of those course design features, such as the course formats themselves with grid and button formats, and also just talk about any of those third-party supplemental items. As you all know on this call here, Moodle is very adaptable and has a great community out there that helps support and design these plugins. And at eThink, we like to offer up that option of installing essentially more or less any plugin. We take a look through and make sure that the plugin itself is going to work as expected on the site and that it is being kept up to date. We're able to kind of work through and help build out some of those best approaches based on the overall request. So if the idea is, how can I get learners into a session where they can actually chat with their instructors directly, we can help build out some solutions based around the face-to-face integration, as well as the scheduler, to help actually build those sessions into the course and allow that face-to-face activity to occur. From there, we had Chair Claire chat over a little bit further about the continued site management support to make sure that that site not only is built in a healthy manner, but continues to move forward in perpetuity in a very strong sense there. From the course content creation and making sure that some of those third-party plugins are used in a very natural and intuitive way to help the course flow, to also being able to talk a little bit further about how that self-paced learning can be incorporated into the course design and making sure that you're building that course out for the correct audience that you expect to be using that course. We worked over a little bit further into the initial training side and really got to touch base on the Moodle Educator certification, as well as the eThink Academy. Being able to help build up that initial support, whether you're a brand new Moodle user or whether you're a pro and have been using it for decades now, really trying to make sure that you have a good grasp on how that site is going to be maintained and how that site is best served in the long run. And last but not least, we dove into the ongoing support and maintenance. And I know Claire is champing at the bit here to talk about the lessons learned from upgrade season, where we talk about that ongoing support and maintenance. But just making sure that not only, as I said, the site is built in a healthy and happy way, but continues on for its entire life cycle there. So being able to make sure that not only end users are supported and that those users have a conduit to be able to reach out and find the information they need if they might get stuck in a specific area, but also then making sure that the site itself is staying up to date with the most needed features from Moodle HQ. So when we see new patches come across or new releases actually come out, we do like to make sure that our clients are staying up to date in the most recent way and the most efficient way to make sure that that site is staying healthy. So overall, we got a lot of great feedback, I think, from this presentation. As I said, this was kind of geared towards newer users, and the UK audience definitely has some great experience there. So we were able to, I think, kind of meld that from the new user into how we can help build that out for even the most advanced of Moodle users. So from there, I will pass things on over, I think, back to Claire to chat a little bit further about the lessons learned from the upgrade season.
Yeah, thanks, Todd. So yeah, that's a perfect segue. I touched on it in the building blocks presentation, but then I did a separate session that just talked about some of the main themes and lessons we've learned from doing hundreds of upgrades over the last year and a half. So I have you can see the chart that I was sharing with the group in this picture here. But if we actually go, if we go forward a couple of slides, I updated the stats since from a month ago when we were at the Moot. So as you can see, I talked about our different upgrade seasons, which I'm sure you could see align very closely with the spikes you see in this graph. So, leading in, at the end of the year around commencement, late April, early May into June, another spike throughout, July and August, getting ready for the new academic year. Again in, November, December, during the fall and holiday breaks. And then as you can see that trajectory is coming back around this spring. There are only 6, I think, in April on the slide at the Moot. So we did another 6 upgrades in April. We're up to 16 so far this May, with about at least another 20 left to go. So it's a really busy month for us. And as we work with each of our clients through planning for and preparing for each of the upgrades, there are kind of 5 key lessons that we like to reiterate over and over. So Todd, if you could go back one for me. And those 5 lessons, first of all, as Todd mentioned, upgrade regularly. If you're behind, more than 2 versions, you are missing out on a lot of the latest and greatest features that Moodle has to offer. This is, a way to keep your Moodle site fresh and exciting and feeling like, and having faculty feel like, the product is evolving. Lesson number 2, this is probably the biggest one from our perspective, is that test sites are your friend. We typically provide our clients with the dev site at least a month in advance, sometimes earlier. We provide you with a checklist, things to go through and look at, make sure that there are no surprises, any plugins that you've installed over the years that you rely on, make sure those are all working, changes to the theme. With a lot of, as Todd mentioned, we're lucky we have Todd and Daniel as our resident CSS nerds, because in recent versions, with the evolution of Boost becoming Bootstrap 4 compatible, has necessitated a lot of tweaks to any CSS we may have applied to a site in the past to get it looking just the way the client likes it. So that test site is tremendously important to make sure that we are prepared. So that kind of ties into number 4. You will be prepared if you use your dev site. You won't fear change as much if you've thoroughly tested your dev site. And then that way, they all kind of are interrelated, these 5 lessons. But if you've done your homework, if you've done your testing, you see what changes are coming, then there will be a lot less anxiety about what's coming, and you can communicate to your end users what's coming, which will also go a long way to reducing the number of FAQs that come up following the changes, you can get ahead of those and point these things out to users in advance with things like custom user tours or documentation that you might want to develop leading up to the upgrade. So in our experience, with these 5 lessons, it really comes down to using your dev site, your test site to thoroughly look through what's coming and be able to prepare and communicate that to your audience in advance. So we are currently quite busy over here on the support side, getting many clients upgraded before following the conclusion of their term and before summer courses get started. So we are living and breathing this, and it continues to remain true that the clients that really internalize these lessons and use their test sites and prepared have the smoothest transitions and fewest questions and issues following an upgrade. So with that, I mentioned quite a bit of tweaking to the theme necessary in recent versions. So with that, I'm going to pass it on to Daniel, who has been able to do a huge amount of customization for our clients with CSS Flexbox.
Thank you, Claire. And thank you, Todd. As both of you mentioned, I am indeed a CSS nerd, and so I'm happy to give you a brief overview on how to customize your site with CSS Flexbox. So if you move on to the next screen, please. Okay, so one of the brilliant aspects about Moodle is the ability to customize your site. And in particular, and through experience, we have many clients that like to customize specifically their login page. And so before using just regular CSS, the floats and whatnot, it was a little bit problematic. But with the introduction of Flexbox, this has become very, very easy to do. So here's a very broad overview of what Flexbox is. So, it's the ability to change the positioning of elements without the need to change it in the core. And also it allows you to, the way it's designed is you have a Flex container and then you have your Flex items, as you can see in the graphic there. And there's a little bit of the CSS code that would allow you to do that. So first you declare the container and then whatever is the children within that container are called the Flex items. So we can move on to the next slide, please. So here is an example of, just one example of many, where we have flipped the login sections, if you will, on the login page. And so typically on a Moodle site, you would have the Moodle accounts, the manual login on the left side and the single sign-on on the right side. But as I mentioned, many clients come to us and they want the single sign-on to be over on the left side so that users focus on it when they log in. And so really with Flexbox, this has become maybe a two-step process. So as you can see in the highlighted area at the bottom, this is the CSS declarations that would be needed to achieve what you see on the screen. And so basically the declaration, the property display, you set it to deflex. The flex wrap, you would wrap reverse it so that if you're viewing it on a mobile app or on your mobile device, that the single sign-on is on top and then the Moodle accounts is on the bottom. And then the row reverse is actually what you do to flip the manual on the manual and the SSO boxes on your login page. What's exciting is that with the newer versions of Moodle and themes, that there are many parts of the theme that are already set as flex boxes. And so the display flex is already part of the theme, and you don't even have to do that. All you have to do is put in, if necessary, just one line, one declaration, which would be the flex direction row reverse, and that would flip those two blocks those two sections on your login page. So yeah, it's very exciting. This works with any theme. This is the Lambda theme right here, but it works in Boost, in Fortson, and the great thing is the Flexbox specification is widely accepted and widely supported by multiple browsers. So that's great. That's all I have. Thanks.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Daniel. I will say we got some great notes actually from Daniel's presentation there. As we were walking away, we heard, just kind of mutterings under the breath, and one person in particular was saying that they had been trying to do something similar with that login block for about a 3-year period, and Daniel was able to help outline that fix in about 15 minutes. So it was absolutely incredible to get some of that feedback there. And again, thank you for that presentation, Daniel.
You're welcome, Todd.
And last but not least, I think I can kind of jump in from my side here and just talk about some of the overall takeaways from our really eThink's first UK MoodleMoot. As was kind of mentioning earlier, it was absolutely incredible to be a part of this. And for those of you that maybe were in attendance at the Moot or knew somebody, you can, go ahead and play Where's Waldo here, as Trevor on our team put it, to try and find your favorite Moodler in that crowd there. But was an absolutely great audience all the way around, from not only the UK, but really from many international organizations that were able to attend on the UK side. It was great to kind of get some of that feedback and see, as I said, that the UK market and the international market is truly a bit of a more refined Moodle user group. They've been using Moodle quite a bit more. I know Claire's got a few anecdotes she'll probably throw in here at the end from her travels, but the just knowledge behind the group was absolutely incredible to see that as Claire and I were giving our presentation, we needed to kind of tweak that to help improve the strength and not necessarily show it off to new users, as the UK group really has been using Moodle for such a long time and has such an intimate knowledge with the actual platform itself. The other thing that I was truly impressed with was the amounts of customizations and bespoke work that goes in behind the scenes to really build out a UK Moodle site. The proprietary bespoke custom plugins that were created, if I can say custom in more than one way there, were really incredible to see. Just the amount of knowledge that was in there, the people behind the scenes making these platforms work in a way that truly fit their needs. So it was incredible to see not only the front end knowledge and the ability to kind of customize that site as they needed, but then to build out those individual plugins and tools was really cool to see what some of these users have been doing. And in addition, the strong sense of community. We were talking with folks here who had been going to Moots for 5, 6, 7, 8 years, essentially going to some of the first UK Moodle Moots, and being able to see that, when we're at the US Moots, we get to know quite a few people and we get to see some familiar faces. But we got the sense that everybody knew everybody at the UK Moot. It was really a kind of a tight-knit group there, and a lot of back and forth idea sharing and best practices between those individual organizations and the universities. So it was really just kind of cool to be a part of that for the first time here from our side. Get to meet some of these major players in the market over there and some of the organizations, and really help kind of building up those relationships. So we were absolutely honored to be a part of this UK Moot here for 2019, and really excited to go back to Dublin this coming year. So those of you that haven't begun booking out, I believe Gavin has announced that the 2019 Moot or 2020 Moot rather, will be in Dublin. So start getting your plane tickets ready at this point, and we'll be very excited to see you there. Claire, I know you had a few notes on your side if you want to jump in with a couple takeaways as well.
Yeah, just a couple things I'd like to piggyback on there. To echo what you said, absolutely was inspiring for us to be involved with this super dedicated, sharp, group of users who I've never been in a Moot where so many people were like, oh yeah, go please add that to the tracker, and developers of plugins that we've been using for many years, was a really great opportunity for us to put some names to faces and build those relationships, as Todd said. The other thing that really stood out to me, and I think this is really drives home the fact that Moodle is at the forefront in the global community. We obviously, Moodle has different competitors in terms of other learning management systems that are out there in the US. But while I was in the UK, random conversations I took up with people in my travels, at restaurants, in the hotel, at the airport, through customs, all of that. They had all heard of Moodle when they asked me what I was doing here and what kind of conference it was. They said, "Oh yeah, I know Moodle. My son uses Moodle, or my daughter uses Moodle, or oh yeah, someone uses Moodle at work." So that just struck me. Rarely do I have those that type of name recognition when people ask me what I do in my random travels around the U.S. So that really stood out to me, and I thought really drove home the fact that there is a wider Moodle world out there that the eThink team, I think, is really privileged to start dipping our toes into.
Well, awesome, Claire. I agree on all fronts. And yeah, like I said, really excited for Dublin here in 2020. I think we're all kind of already doing a bit of angling in the eThink team to see who will be the privileged folks to be able to attend that.
Absolutely, might be a cage match. And I believe they've announced the US Moot this year is going to be in Philadelphia in September 17th through the 19th. So definitely get that on your calendars as well, to those in the US listening today, if you haven't already.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Claire. With that, I think we can pass things on back to Randy for just a few wrap-up notes here and showing off a few of the big brains on the team here with our administration staff here.
Yeah, the system admin team doesn't get much love often, do they? They're usually in the background, getting their work done. So I like showing them off every once in a while. We had a new cohort of hires, I guess 2 weeks ago now, and some of the system admin team was able to make it into home office, and this photo was taken there. So wanted to get them front and center since they don't get much FaceTime here. Great work, team. I appreciate it. Anybody in the audience who might have any questions on functionality that was discussed today, or any other questions that while you have our team available here, we might be able to answer for you, certainly throw those in the questions pane in the GoToWebinar control panel. And if you'll be at any of these upcoming events, certainly let us know. We're pretty excited for ATD, leaving Sunday morning to get down to DC. Being Baltimore based, we can just go ahead right down 295 and jump right into DC. I'm pretty excited. It's local, no flying this time. That's great. So if you'll be at ATD, come on over to happy hour. Me, you, Oprah, whoever else we can get together and have a coffee or a beverage of some sort. And I know today is the last day that I think Ben's actually out there now at the Europe, Middle East, and Africa Totara Users Conference. I don't think anybody's out there at the moment, but it will be at SHRM. That MoodleMoot that Claire mentioned is, like she said, Philadelphia. Again, a nice short drive from Baltimore, thankfully. September 17th through 19th. If you're going to be there, let us know. We'll definitely try to connect and find some time to chat. And then I4PL is the Institute for Performance Learning. It's combined with Online Learning 2019 in Toronto. We'll, of course, be at EDUCAUSE in Chicago this year, and DevLearn, our team always has a really large contingent every year in Vegas out at DevLearn. So if you'll be at any of these events, certainly let us know. And then finally, here's just our contact information. If you happen to be in Baltimore at any time, feel free to swing through, come see the office, come see the office pup, Tucker. That's our CEO's Brian, his Rhodesian Ridgeback, and what is Tucker mixed with?
Boxer, I think.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you, Claire. Couldn't find it. Rhodesian Ridgeback and Boxer. He sort of roams the office, king of the office. Come by and see Tucker and everybody else. If you happen to be in Baltimore, let us know. Any questions, or if you'd like to see more about what we can do with Moodle, any questions about our Moodle service, feel free to reach out to me. Happy to answer questions at any time. And if you'd like to learn more about our eThink Academy, which Claire and her team are working really hard on, we've been offering training courses to our current clients for a long, long time. but we're expanding the courses that we provide and offering them outside of our client base to the Moodleverse as a whole. So if you'd like to learn a little bit more about the Moodle training courses that we're now offering, please let us know. All right, team, I don't see any further questions. I know you guys answered some privately there, which I appreciate, but I don't see anything else at the moment. If we don't get any other questions here in the next few seconds, I think it might be time to wrap up for the day.
Yeah, please do. You know, if you think of questions later, don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you all for joining us. We're you know, always happy to share our experiences at these conferences, and we hope that we'll see you at future ones.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Bye now.
Have a great day.